Welcome, everybody, to Samudra Shakti Online. I'm so glad that you're with us tonight. Tonight, we have Deb Payne joining us, and she has been an Anusara certified teacher for many years. In fact, she is a certified teacher in Arizona, and she was one of the early participants in the birth of the Anusara School of Hatha Yoga and was integral to the school's operations until 2017. She continued work on publishing the Anusara manual, the manuals that we have, including making revisions and the therapeutics manual before she retired from working behind the scenes. Deb is also proud to be a part of the Samudra Shakti Live planning team that's bringing you the event out west in Colorado. So I'm going to stop my share and hand this over to Deb for her presentation tonight.
There we go. Thank you, Lisa, and thanks everyone for coming. And we're in gallery mode here, which is perfect. And even if you're in your jammies, just turn your camera on for a second. I know you're muted, but I'd like you to join me for a second, even though Madhuri's not here tonight, but she will see this. Help me give Lisa and Madhuri a big hug and much gratitude for the 3 years that they have carried this on every single month, just out of love and their intention to build community in the US. So let's wave, bow, blow kisses. Love you, my sisters of the heart. They have carried this for us, and I'm so grateful. All right. So I guess I need to turn that page. All right, I got to get in the groove here. One of the wonderful aspects of Anusara yoga is, and always has been, the freedom to study with a fabulous variety of tantric scholars, an absolute buffet of rasas, and the encouragement to taste or feast on one or all. I've had the great good fortune to study with no less than 5 different contemporary scholars, and I adore them all and have learned so much. But usually one scholar will stand out, for a hungry student, and will speak to the heart and even blow your mind. For me personally, that's been Dr. Douglas Brooks. He offers teachings that feel relevant and resonate deeply. And what I'll share with you this evening emerged in large part from a summer workshop held by Dr. Brooks, affectionately referred to by all as Douglas. Douglas teaches Rajanika Yoga, a tradition of auspicious wisdom, an evolution of the Shravidya tradition, a Southern India goddess-centered tradition. It has been very helpful to me in making sense of things. Another hallmark of Anusara yoga is embodying the teachings and discovering your own voice, using your creativity to express and bring more beauty to the world. And my dear friend Nancy Dales has created a masterful example of this, which I will share with you tonight. Her Nitya Goddess cards have been very inspirational and quite literally a joy to behold. Nancy is a longtime Anusara practitioner. She did Anusara teacher training, secured funding from a local nonprofit, and taught volunteer as a yoga teacher at a charter school in Arizona. But I dare say her heart was more in the teachings than in being the teacher. And it's reflected in her creative endeavors. So please welcome my dear friend, Nancy Dales. Nancy, unmute yourself and say hi.
Hello, everyone. Very nice of you to say, Deb. Very nice.
Well, Nancy, I have to thank you for saying no, because my plan was to simply host Nancy and let her present on this and present her cards. And she very graciously declined. And but she said, go ahead. So that sent me down a very deep rabbit hole. And that lovely word no became a fantastic yes. And I've learned and discovered things I might never have known. So thank you, Nancy.
Mhm.
So let's talk about the moon. We all have moon stories, snapshots of time and place that imprinted our emotions, our highs, our lows. The goddesses I will introduce you to tonight will invite you to look deep within to discover your own divinity again and again. So here's my story. Full moon, Rocky Point, Mexico, 1980. I'm vacationing with my boyfriend and a group of friends, and we sneak outside to watch the full moon rise. We're sitting on a rock on the beach. It's very romantic. And a rogue wave comes and we fall off our rock, not into sand, but into barnacles. And I think the moon goddesses had a good laugh, as did our friends when we walked back in the house, bleeding, wet, and laughing, because that's what you do when you're in love. And we've been married 41 years and watched many moonrises. What's your story? Maybe one that you haven't thought of for a while, a special moment under the moon. If you teach yoga, the moon is often used as an example of darkness, illumination, and reflection, just for starters. And we've likely all been fascinated with the moon since we were children. The moon is always there, even if not illuminated from our vantage point, waxing and waning. She is nonetheless a constant, an eternal point of reference, an anchor, a portal between us mere mortals in human form and the vast formless universe. I'm going to switch here to a little PowerPoint. Oh, and it didn't go back to the first slide. All right. So the Nitya Goddesses is this presentation. And the moon is the divine mother in almost every culture. In the yoga traditions, moon is Shakti. She's feminine, Vimarsha, reflection, also known as Kula Shaktis or the powers of time. She is complementary to the sun, to Shiva, Prakasha, or light. Moon is that place between ourselves and everything else. It's the first midline between the microcosm of our body, mind, and heart and the macrocosm of the universe. She is the movement of Soma and the phasing of light. She is the current of grace between ourselves and that which is greater. The universe is vast. We want to orient ourselves to something we can relate to, a point of reference that we can access. And we can do that with breath, with devas, yantras, and mantras. The goddess makes it personal. What is it like to take our outer experiences of the world and draw them in? What is it like to take what we feel and express it outwardly? How do we draw it in and out at the same time? And how do you see the world new, doing the same thing? The Nityas are traditionally discussed as the answers to these questions. Rajanika Yoga is more interested in the questions than the answers, and in asking more interesting and compelling questions. The focus on living in this world and learning how to appreciate the depth and complexity of nature, culture, and our individual experience. We want to learn to love life, live life more deeply, and understand what we know and feel because we share a common humanity. Let's look at number 4 again. This is where it gets really interesting, I think. How do you see the world new doing the same thing? Nitya means eternal, everlasting, always. Recursive, but never the same, always changing. Questions, not answers. Discover oneself anew. The moon waxes and wanes, month after month, century after century, and yet our experience of life is different every cycle. The waning moon is about involution, returning back to center, dissolution. The waxing moon is about evolution and the expression of self-creation. The Nitya Goddesses ask us to discover ourselves over and over again. Nityas are the guardians of your highest self, whose purpose is to show you, teach you, and reveal to you your light, your purpose, and your dharma. I think I skipped a slide. Here we go. In the Tantric tradition, things are not supposed to be or necessarily understood, but rather felt and experienced. What makes knowledge real is your own personal experience. And the 16 Nityas bring experience into form and embodiment. To the invitation to create alignment, a relationship between ourselves and something greater than ourselves. We already did that one. So a little history. The 16 Nityas were made prominent within the Sri Vidya, the goddess-centered tradition, and there are 4 major ancient texts that wrote about them, including the Tantra Raja and the Nitya Shodha Karnava. The first commentary, though, was in the 12th century by Jayaratha. These texts specified that the Nityas should be placed alongside the edges of the Shri Chakra, Shri Chakra triangle. That trips me up every time. And that Lalita must be honored in the Bindu. And we'll talk more about these. I won't pretend to be even an imposter of a scholar. But the point is that the Nityas were written about in the earliest Tantric texts and with some specific instructions. Each phase or kala or tithi has specific items associated with it, a deva or goddess, that in each deva will have an element, a guna, a direction. There's tremendous symbology of colors and their dress and their jewelry and their number of arms and what they hold, which is beyond the scope of our time for sure tonight. They have an individual yantra and a mantra and a vow. And there's also alignment with states of consciousness, chakras, planets, musical intervals, Ida and Pingala, and so much more. Kala is a measure of time. Tithi is a term used in Vedic astrology that refers to solely lunar days. So they're kind of interchangeable terms, this phase, Kala, and Tithi. And there's various ways to kind of organize the Nityas. And sometimes we say there's 15 and some 16, which will make sense, I hope, as we move forward. But there are 15 different dance positions with the sun, with Shiva, 15 different moods, different qualities of light, and there's +1. They can be organized by 5 elements and 3 gunas, and the elements being, ether or space, we usually say earth, fire, water, and air. The gunas of rajas, tamas, and sattva, characteristics or features of the material world. There's the 5 acts of Shiva: creation, sustenance, dissolution, concealment, and revealment. and 5 Shaktis, Ichayana, Kriya, Chit, and Ananda. If you're a yoga teacher, those are familiar words. If they're not, email me. And we'll talk. But these sets of 5 create a bija, a seed that invites unfolding and unpacking and meaning. So as I mentioned in the ancient text, they stated that the goddesses should be lined up along the edges of the Shri Chakra yantra. This is one piece of it, this triangle. We'll look at that again in a little bit. But on the one side, the goddesses that are associated with fire are to be on the corners. So 1, 6, and 11 are on the corners. I didn't fill in the remainder, but on one side, the first goddess to the 5th goddess, and they represent the deepest desire associated with seduction. The 6th to the 10th are associated with passion and connection. And 11th to 15th, the third side of the triangle, repose and separation. And then in the center, the Bindu is Lalita, the 16th. But now is a good time to be open about the fact that the Nityas can be presented in an explicitly sexual content, which you might have a clue there with seduction and passion. And there are some resources that only look at that vantage point. However, I would argue that the Nityas should be viewed with a much broader lens and apply to the more mundane and ordinary aspects of life. We develop as human beings with passion and deep desires and dreams. As adults, we pursue those dreams, hopefully with passion. We're social beings, making many connections. And again, hopefully some are special, significant, and deeply satisfying. And as we move through the decades of life, one would hope to bask in contentment. Lalita Tripura Sundari. She is the 16th goddess. So there are 15 lunar days that we'll look at. But the 16th, Lalita, is represented by the Shri Chakra. It's a dynamic map of reality and a substrate for ritual, a focal point for meditation. But she is the playful one. She's the most beautiful of the 3 worlds and the enchanting beauty of Maya. And she is the +1 principle, the reminder that there is always more. She is each of the goddesses and the culmination of all the Nityas and represents the desire of our soul to experience all the different aspects of life. So why are there 16? They're a way of mapping and understanding time. They're phasic and measurable. Breath is a measure of time and duration. And all of this maps onto phases of the moon, the zodiac signs, the letters of the alphabet, the planets, a very long list. So the math doesn't add up, go figure. Math never adds up for me. And even a Harvard PhD struggled to explain all of this. I'm just going to touch on it a little bit. So the 15 Nityas times 2 cycles, the waning and waxing moon, should equal 30, but it doesn't. It's a little off. It's 29 and a half. And so the 16th, the space that is created by the math not quite adding up, is the 16th goddess, Lalita, the Nitya Shodashi. Shodashi means 16. She's an opening in the seam of the fabric of time. She's each of the Nityas and the whole set and a little more. There's a tremendous amount of math, a living and scientific model of the fabric of our existence. Just a little taste of it. 108 is the number of arms total of the goddesses. Some have 2, some have 8, some have 10. I think one has 12. They all add up to 108, which is often an auspicious number in many ways. But 108 is also the diameter of the sun. The diameter of the sun is 108 times the diameter of the earth. It's the average distance, earth to sun, is 108 times the sun's diameter. The average distance, earth to moon, is 108 times the moon's diameter. I won't test you on this, I promise. There's 1,440 average breaths in an hour, 21,600 in a day. It goes on, and it just shows how all of these things weave together. It's quite fascinating. It's quite complicated, and it's kind of fun to read about. So there's the solar calendar and the lunar calendar. The modern calendar that we live by is more the solar calendar or Gregorian calendar. These ancient texts were based on the lunar calendar, which is 29 to 30-day cycle. Again, not a whole number. There's that 29 and a half. 12 months of the year, but it's a 360-day lunar year. And there's more correlations, 720 different moods. If you look at it day and night, 720 different love stories adds up to the 1,440 breaths in an hour. You can draw lines all day long between these different things. It's very interesting. So the first day of the waxing moon is one Kala, Tithi, aspect, or phase, however it might be referred to. But it's one quality of light. It's one taste of soma, the nectar of life. And each new phase intensifies, gets a little brighter, a little sweeter, fuller. There's a beautiful dance between the moon and the sun, between Shiva and Shakti. In Vedic astrology, calls the waxing moon Shukla Paksha, the bright fortnight. The moon moves away from the sun. Shakti dances away from Shiva, seeking her own divinity, reflecting his light into the world in its full glory, reflecting the sunlight. And she's to rediscover herself and understand her purpose. And I think we all know the fullness of individuality can only be learned at a distance. In every relationship, some distance is needed for self-discovery. The cycle is reversed with the waning moon, the Krishna Paksha, or dark fortnight. Experiencing her fullness, Shakti begins longing for her beloved. And as she steps back toward Shiva and sheds her tears, she loses some of her brightness. She reunites with her beloved on New Moon Day, a day full of possibility. Anything is possible. Yantras are these sacred geometric designs and a tool to move from form to formless. Creates an understanding of the flow of energy. There's always 4 gates of entry, 4 directions, 4 elements, and the 5th element of space is the center bindu. Yantra is the portal. It gives structure. It's the way in. And each of the goddesses has their own unique yantra, which we'll see. She each also has her own mantra, and each Nitya corresponds to the 16 vowels in Sanskrit. The vowels are the Shaktis of all languages. Without them, words would have no life force in any language. And bijas are these encoded seed syllables activated through sound vibration, and they activate the yantras, activate energetically. Bijas are like seeds that result in fruit, and then the fruit makes the seed. So the end is actually the beginning, kind of the chicken and egg conundrum. Chanting the Nitya mantras provides a deeper relationship with them. So each mantra begins with the letter A, pronounced I'm. The seed, the bija is I'm. That's the first vowel that holds all the other vowels. Next, Hreem, earth element bija that holds all the other elements. Then Shreem, all that is auspicious, how we experience the Shakti. Then the name of the goddess with Yai added to the end denotes the feminine form. And last is Sao, the bija of the heart, always being offered. So, for example, with the first goddess, the mantra would be I'm, Hreem, Shreem, Kameshvaryai, Sao. And this could be repeated 108 times, any number of times, along with meditating with the yantra, are two of the main ways. And Nancy goes into this in much greater detail with the set of cards. She has a lot more information there than we're able to cover tonight. So ways that we can engage in relationship with the Nityas is to study their individual yantras, to chant their unique mantras, meditation, and to dwell in the feelings and the experience. The process is about heart connection, not perfection. But ritual is important. Create your own. Contemplate the meaning of the opportunity. And in further study, you can explore and look at how many arms and what is the meaning of their artifacts that they're holding, their number of heads and eyes, garments, colors, ornaments, gems. There is so much that we could spend this entire hour on each goddess. So it's a very deep well of symbology and mythology that you can read into. So at last, I would like to introduce you to each of the Nityas through Nancy's beautiful artwork. The back side of this card, I want you to see this as an example. I'm going to show you the front of all the remaining cards, and I'll read to you the verse that's on the back side. So the Nitya is eternal, the goddesses of forever. The moon reveals her fullness through the reflection of the sun. Each phase, a commingled journey of love and light, darkness and shadow. Each aspect of the goddess gives way to wholeness. She who is always present, yet reveals and conceals her mysteries for those who remember to look up and within. You are the woman in the moon. This is Kameshvari. Kameshvari Nitya, the goddess of solitude. On the dark night, so before I start that, let me pause. I invite you to just really be with the yantra. You can study the details, or just kind of sit back and let it speak to you. Just be with it. Notice what comes up for you, where your eye follows, and enjoy the beautiful text here. So on the dark night of the new moon, Kameshvari asks what you truly desire. In the stillness, with no one able to see or judge, she presses you to assess who you really are. In the darkness, the goddess reveals what dreams you wish to make come true. She ritualizes each new moon as a new beginning with her desires revealed not outwardly, but inwardly. The yantra is her meditation tool to lead her from the artistry of form to the essence of formlessness. This goddess within you dreams her way to clarity. Listen to your heartbeat. Bhagamalini Nitya, the goddess of breakthrough. On the second night of the Nitya moon, a glimmer of light appears. While always connected to her darkness, Bhagamalini emerges from her solitude. The sliver of light gives way to remind us she is always present, yet ever changing. She appears to disrupt the darkness and bring energy to her desires. This goddess within you is now ready to trust her inner knowing and reveal to the world what she dreams of as her most luminous self. Broken, not open. Broken, open, not broken, excuse me. This is Klina Nitya, the goddess of expression. On the third night of the waxing moon, Klina comforts the fears and the tears that come with desires. She invites us to embrace them as they too are part of the journey. The goddess asks to feel into our wounds, to dispel the falsehoods that hold us back. Klina tells us that our stories are the connections to healing, intimacy, and wholeness. She prompts us to rise above the doubts and express ourselves unabashedly. This goddess who resides within us, this goddess who resides within assures us it is through our rawness, blood, sweat, and tears we free our bodies to experience our innate divine beauty. Follow your own arrow. Varunda Nitya, the goddess of vulnerability. On the fourth night of the Nitya moon, Varunda invites your wildness to come alive. The goddess entices you to speak your truth beyond the social norms, full of rules and expectations. She expresses herself fully, holds nothing back, and owns her choices. Varunda unmasks her vulnerabilities to reveal her authenticity, unabashedly and without shame. This goddess within implores you to look deep within your heart, to see how exquisite you truly are in every way. Dare to be free. Vanivasini Nitya, the goddess of selection. On the fifth night of the moon, the fire dweller appears. Vanivasini is the choice maker. She makes clear your desires form your choices, and your identity is formed by your choices. Vanivasini's moonlight illuminates to question what choices you will make to fulfill your dreams. Her passion propels you to continuously examine your values. With her fire-dwelling faith, she implores you to express your uniqueness, as she knows that individuality in itself is divine. This goddess within invites you to draw your arrow of fire and release your creativity into form. Destiny awaits. Where'd my arrow go? There it is. Vajaswari Nitya, the goddess of exaltation. On the sixth night of the Nitya moon, Vajaswari, with the swiftness of a thunderbolt, disseminates what no longer serves her. The goddess creates authentic connection everywhere she goes. Vajaswari clings to nothing and pushes boundaries. Fully present, determined, and joyful. She personifies discernment while holding nothing back. She sees the beauty in vulnerability, and then in an instant she is gone. With her, she takes all the negative forces, fears, and doubts. This goddess within you lives as nothing lasts forever. Rediscovery knows even a goodbye is divine. Love your life. Shivaduti Nitya. She's the goddess of connection. On the 7th night of the Nitya moon, Shivaduti captivates us with her sense of duty. She is the embodiment of self-discipline, courage, integrity, and loyalty. The goddess who is in a sacred alliance with Shiva readily receives his messages of divine light, yet never loses sight of her autonomy. Through her righteousness for justice, she inspires us with humility to do better, to be better. Shivaduti refines her commitments with surrender and kindness. This goddess within beckons you with tough love to fulfill your highest good. Receive and offer. Tvarita Nitya, the goddess of swiftness. On this 8th night of the Nitya moon, Tvarita shimmers at the midpoint between the new and full moon. She exemplifies equanimity as the half-moon goddess. To be full in the moonlight ahead, she asks us to embrace the shadow of our past. Tvarita embodies both masculine and feminine, light and dark, good and evil. She invites us to decide where we differentiate ourselves, then choose unapologetically what we bind ourselves to. With swift precision, Tvarita discerns what to release to stay in rhythm with the primal forces of nature. This goddess within urges not to settle in the middle, but to illuminate outward to permeate deep connections with ourself and others. Dancing in the moonlight. Kula Sundari Nitya, the goddess of wisdom. The goddess of the 9th moon is an all-knowing, I said it wrong, Kula Sundari's beauty is an embodiment of wealth, learning, and teaching. Her beauty radiates out through her engagement in her community, her Kula. The goddess's knowledge, grounded in her physical body, seeks clarity and understanding from all points of view. She invokes all her senses to experience the beauty in herself and others. Without judgment or strings, this goddess within holds space for everyone to share their experiences. What I know to be true. Nitya Nitya, the goddess of dissolution. On the 10th night of the eternal moon, Nitya tells us nothing lasts forever. The goddess is the embodiment of living life fully because it will end. She insists we try, make mistakes, learn from them, and try again. The goddess knows to appreciate and be present in every moment. She understands life is fleeting, so she takes nothing for granted. Nitya flows and shapeshifts with ease from the understanding all things come to a close. This goddess within doesn't cling to her stories or loves. Instead, she cherishes them and sets them free. Live your life. Nilapataka Nitya, the goddess of blue. Nilapataka is the blue moon of the 11th night. She resides in the dream state where rules don't apply. The goddess gives way to the in-between places where the internal churning of our subconscious mind is revealed. Nilapatika, through glimpses of herself in dreams, reconnects the parts of her that have fallen away. This goddess within is strengthened from the surrender to what has been concealed. She knows your highest self is unveiled again and again through the engagement of the unknown. Dream on. Vijaya Nitya, the goddess of victory. On the 12th night of the Nitya moon, Vijaya embraces all that is not beautiful. She destroys all that prevents us from access to the many doorways of the divine. Her goddess power is amplified through the lens of beauty, which includes our flaws and weaknesses. This goddess within you uses her double-sided nature of horrifying and kind, warrior and diplomat, to be victorious in her relationships. Vijaya transforms your shadows into wholeness. Life is beautiful. Sarvamangala Nitya, the goddess of grace. On the 13th night of the lustrous moon, Sarvamangala breathes us. She resides in between the spaces of the inhale and exhale, where boundless possibilities await. Her pause yields peace, where freedom unfurls to all that falsely binds. Sarvamangala sees auspiciousness in all things, all people. The goddess within you refines her elegance through the spaciousness of her breath. Cultivate your freedom. Jalamalini Nitya, the goddess of introspection. On the 14th night of this almost full moon, Jalamalini rises poised and self-assured. Her inner peace illuminates like a garland of flames. The goddess takes in her surroundings and draws the senses inward to experience them intimately. She discloses her inner strength with grace and elegance. Jalamalini is radiant from the inside out as she glides between the quietude of self and the outward journey with others. This goddess within savors the senses to experience life more intuitively for herself, her family, and her community. Stillness within the chaos. Chitra Nitya, the goddess of sovereignty. On the 15th night of the Nitya moon, Chitra is fully illuminated. This woman in the moon is the culmination of the waxing phases from the darkest night to the radiant whole. The breadth of her light reminds us we are all different, but not separate. Her reflection is for us to interpret. Chitra honors our uniqueness as we are all works of art. This goddess within unapologetically celebrates your individuality and variegated experiences. Write your own story. And Lalita Nitya, the goddess of play. On the 16th night of the Nitya moon, Lalita reveals herself. She is the +1 principle of beginnings and ends. Lalita is the reminder there is always more. Her beauty illuminates the intention of play, her fullness cultivated through the cycles of one. Lalita's reflection is the culmination of all the Nityas and then some. This goddess within you is the extra piece. to keep you curious and free. Wonderment becomes you. And there we go. Those are the Nitya Goddesses. There's some references here. Douglas's website, book of his, Auspicious Wisdom. Nancy's cards are available at Anusara, I can't read it here, but anusarayoga.com in the store. And another book that I found very interesting was this Journey with the Moon, Tithys and Spirituality and Astrology. It's based on Vedic astrology, and very, very interesting. And you can look up, not in that book, but it prompted me to go online and actually look what the phase of the moon was on the day that I was born, and what goddess would have been at play or at work on that date. So it's kind of a fun thing to do. You can go back and see who was in the sky on the day that you were born.
So thank you for joining us tonight for Samudra Shakti Online. I'm going to stop the share and hand this back to Deb for a final farewell.
Thank you all again for coming tonight, and I hope you found it interesting. I hope you'll try to obtain a set of Nancy's cards, because they're just amazing. And there's nothing like having something in your hand to inspire you and to refer to, and it's such a thing of beauty. But I also want to say that if just walk outside and look up, look within and look up.